Hi, I'm Linda Bebbington from daretosparkle.com and I'm your love coach and relationship psychotherapist. And I've just come on today to talk to those of you who have lost your relationship or are going through a breakup of some kind and are struggling and need some words of encouragement and perhaps some tips on how to get through this very difficult time in your life. If you're here today, I'm assuming this is the message that you need to receive. And so I'm going to try and explain to you some of the reasons why you might be suffering so deeply and give you just a little tweak in how you can start to think about things differently so that you heal more quickly and get some soothing and relief from the pain that you're currently experiencing. You know, we all get lost sometimes. Life happens, cosmic blows to the head occur daily to different people in different ways. And I would say that heartbreak is one of the most tough experiences that we can go through. And the reason for that is that there's usually very little in life that causes us to have so many emotions all at the same time. So many negative emotions. And they are, you know, we feel hurt because the one that we love has gone, and we feel abandoned sometimes. And we have thoughts such as, oh, you know, I'm no good, they've abandoned me. Then we have anger about that. How could they do this to me? Then we get depressed. Well, it's all hopeless. I can't go on. I don't know what to do. I'm lost. And then we have guilt sometimes about some of the ways we've behaved. We get jealousy about possible future relationships that the other person might have. We sometimes suffer from envy, where they seem to be getting on with their own lives while we're struggling and we can't move on. And then we get sometimes into the worst thing of all, which is shame. And that is when we feel, I'm not good enough, I wasn't good enough for that person. There must be something wrong with me, this keeps happening to me. And then we get into the whole thing of self-doubt. And self-doubt, and of course anxiety is the biggest feeling that we're going to be experiencing, and I'll get into that in a moment. But you know, the self-doubt starts to creep in, and we just want to give up, and we're done with love. We declare, that's it, it's over for me. I've tried to make things work. Love clearly isn't meant for me. And we can get into some crazy victim mode and mentality that really doesn't serve us. And if you're in any of that mire right now, then you'll know how problematic your own beliefs and your own thinking can be for you. You know, that some of the feelings are natural. We're not going to feel all happy clappy when such a negative thing happens to us in life, especially when our feet are held to the fire in a breakup, and all this gunk is coming out, and these really intense collection of emotions dragging us down and, you know, making us feel, as I say, totally lost on the path. So I mentioned anxiety. Anxiety is one of the biggest ones. We can get into primal panic. Primal panic is being separated from our love object. And if you've got an insecure attachment style, that can be particularly traumatic. So, you know, if you feel yourself that you're feeling overly traumatized by the breakup, then it might be time to maybe look into attachment styles and see if you've got some old trauma that's making things a whole lot worse, because that's usually the case. So we've got anxiety obviously about the future. The anxious mind wants to propel us into the future. This future now that's empty and hopeless and possibly going to present one thing after the other in the way of challenges. You know, possibly if you've split up with a partner, you've got financial issues, housing issues, then we get into how lonely we might be, and that's it, we won't ever find anybody else. And so the anxious mind's thinking, oh no, this is a complete disaster, and we start to then tell ourselves we can't cope. So the alternative to getting into that anxiety, which also then obviously looks back to the past and then makes us miss everything we've had, it shows us what we no longer have, it shows us a future which seems to hold nothing that we want, and then we just get stuck in deadlock, and we start thinking, well, I'm just going to put my love away and that's it, and the psyche starts to tumble downwards. So one of the ways that we can overcome the intensity of the anxiety is to just tweak some of the thinking that we're doing, that's going on in the brain. And we're telling ourselves all those things that I've just mentioned, very dramatic things, such as I'll never love again, nobody wants me, I'm not good enough, then how dare they, and I can't cope. This type of thinking, this is catastrophic thinking, awfulizing everything, which means not only is this situation bad, it's worse than bad, it's badder than bad, it's more than 100% bad, which of course isn't even possible, and we're not helping ourselves at all. We're making everything get gloomier and darker. So one way of doing it is to look at the reality of the situation and keep coming back to reality, because your life, your healing, your happiness begins and ends with the truth. And we don't speak the truth to ourselves in our own mind. The brain goes down its own pathway, starts giving us information, feeding back to us lots of different drama stories. And although in the first instance we're maybe not in control of that, we need to start taking charge of the narrative that's going on in your head. You need to look at what you're telling yourself about the situation, get control of that story, and start turning it in the direction of the truth. And it's easy, even right now, your mind might be saying, no, but it really is really unbearable, because it's very convincing. It's a survival mechanism in some ways. It's telling you, no, this is not an alert, action, take action, this is an emergency, this is not a drill. Your world is falling apart, do something. And then the chemicals start pumping in the body and we're freaked out. And we start to panic, and then we get into lots of negativity. Now, as I say, it's normal to be negative. Healthy anxiety is good. Healthy anxiety helps us to take action towards our goals. Unhealthy anxiety keeps us trapped in an untrue and unhelpful narrative that is really, it's not even factual. So a better way to see it is, my partner, boyfriend, lover has gone, and it's really painful. However, I'm still alive. Nothing's happened, really. I'm sitting here right now watching this video, and right now nothing is wrong. Nothing in this particular moment. Now the brain wants to say, of course it is. It's wrong. He's gone. They've left. And that's true. However, it's not affecting this very moment. If you were still with that person and they weren't with you in this moment, you'd be fine. So it's just projecting into the future where this person's no longer around and causing a drama. Because obviously you don't need another human being. We're all grown-ass adults. We just get into triggering when somebody leaves us. The part of us that's young, a child still almost, a baby, is traumatized. It feels abandoned. And babies can be abandoned. Babies need humans, adults, to survive. But when we're adults, we're not abandoned, we can't be abandoned. We can be left, but never can we be abandoned, because we can take care of ourselves. And so it's some of this thinking that will help you to ground yourself in what you've got control of, because you can't control the situation, the event. The event has happened, that person has left. Now, it doesn't mean to say that they're not going to come back, but that's a whole different thing I can help you with. But it does mean that there is one constant in all of this breakup process, which is usually always chaotic, but there's one area where you have control. There's one constant, and it's you. You are always consciously just in your own environment, in your own space, and in control. Now, that might, you don't have what you want right now, or what you think you need, which you don't need, but you think you do, because there's a part of you telling you you need it, i.e. the ex. But you really don't need anybody else. You just sit and breathe and notice nothing is happening right now. Nothing's happening. Just breathe into the present moment and recognize that you have everything within you to look after yourself. You know, some people get over heartbreak because they have got this wonderful attitude, and they, instead of saying, I'm no good, there must be something wrong with me, they flip that script and they start telling themselves, that person doesn't deserve me. I'm better than that. I know my worth. I know that I'm a great partner, a great wife, a great husband. I'm a great human being. And if I'm not a great human being, I'm doing my best. And every day in every way I'm getting better. And they have this self-esteem voice inside that brings these self-esteem statements that allow them to stay afloat during tough times. And I'm just thinking that maybe it would be a good idea if you asked yourself, do you have that voice? Who's talking to you in your mind? Is it the victim who's saying, poor me, how could they do this to me? They're horrible people. All those people out there who wound me, they're awful people. And look at me, poor me. Is that the voice that you've got? Or is it the angry voice? How dare they do this to me? I'll get my revenge. I'll show them. Or is it that shame-filled voice of, I'm clearly deficient and defective because nobody wants to love me, which again comes from a victim mentality, but shame is so deep, deep, deep rooted, that needs to come out, be discarded. Or is the anxiety voice, I can't cope, I'm not going to be able to cope, this is terrible, it's awful, I can't stand it. Well, you can stand it, because if you couldn't stand it, you'd be dead. So clearly you can stand it even though you don't like it. So that's what to tell yourself possibly. I hate this situation. I do not like it, but I can stand it. I can cope because I'm an adult, grown-ass human being. And we give too much power away to these people all the time. But no, nothing out there is constant, because life means change. And we can't rely on another person, even if we've taken vows with that person. This gets a whole lot worse now. Now the voice in the head is telling you, oh my goodness, he made a vow. We stood in front of each other and we took our vows. Well, that's true. However, people change their minds. And it's the truth and it's the fact of life. And you know, a good idea in the future, I would say, is if we were to take vows that say, right now, I promise to love you for the rest of my life. And I'll do my very best to do that. And that's a better way of tweaking those vows, because although we want to try our best and overcome conflict and overcome challenges and hurdles in marriage and any verbal agreements to be together, we can't predict that we'll be able to fulfill those vows and promises, and neither can anybody else. So this is again coming back to reality. I know it's a bit of a romance killer to think, well, oh God, okay, we can never really ever promise anybody anything. Not when it comes to relationships. We can just do our best to fulfill the promises that we make, and then sort of commit to not making promises we don't think we can keep. So your heartbreak is the pain that you're experiencing right now. 50% or more of it isn't about the person leaving. It's about the story in your head about the person leaving. You're in control of that. You can't stop them going or leaving or breaking your heart or breaking their promises. You control the story though. And the good way of trying to bring out the story is, first of all, watching this video might alert you to the fact that, yeah, I guess I am telling myself some quite extreme things about this situation. You can write it out, you can get it out, figure out which voice is in there feeding the narrative. And once you get the light of day on that, because a lot of it's unconscious, you have to kind of bring it out by writing or talking to somebody. And once you do that, then it's all out in the open air. And that way, it's out on the table for discussion and for observation. Because unless you can get it out of your head and out into the open, there's nothing you're going to be able to do about it. So this is the reason for doing some self-reflection, so that you can identify what's real, what's not real. Yes, your ex is gone, it's very painful, and that's a process of grief that you're going to have to go through, that we all have to go through. And then there's part of it that we don't have to go through, because we're just piling on our own stuff on top of an already negative situation. So that's the work to be done. The work to be done is to recognise what is negative and how can I have a healthy response to it, and what is not real and that I'm bringing old drama to and my psychology to make worse, and trying to get that out of the picture so that you can just focus on going through the grief process and healing. So a lot of people, which is very natural, find the grieving process intolerable because the emotions are so intense. Now, there are obviously at first, as the psyche's settling into some sort of new situation, it is very painful because your whole world is changed and possibly changed, or at least your immediate world, even if you weren't with a person for very long, it can be devastating. And people either, one, go too far into screaming, crying, shouting and being a bit over dramatic, or go into denial and start drugging, drinking and avoiding actually getting over that situation. And what they don't understand is the grief is the healing. Grief isn't just a painful process that you have to go through. The grief is filling in the gap. The grief is healing you. So there are some 5 to 7 stages of grief that we all go through until we get to acceptance. and then that is the healing done. So for every moment, every day that you're crying and letting go in some way, then that's the gap, the hole being filled from where your ex used to be, from where your relationship used to be. So for sure, shed tears and cry and hit the pillows and do whatever you have to do to get all the emotions out, and do it with a mentality of, I'm releasing, I'm healing, I'm filling in the gap of where this relationship once lived. And the alternative though, that some people tend to go down the road of is crying with the different thinking going on, which is, I can't deal with it, I'm not going to accept it. And it's that's stuck in that denial phase. And so the tears aren't healing tears, the tears are just continuing to generate more pain. So it's all in the thoughts and beliefs of what you're thinking, of how you're thinking when you're doing the actual crying and releasing. Because tears are releasing the toxins from the body and just gently healing everything that's within. And this is it's vital that you try and see it with just this different mentality, the grief process, getting over your ex. And if you can do that, then you can stay on your own side. You don't have to get into self-doubt and shame and anger and guilt and all those different things. And if you recognise that that's happening, then it's just a matter of stopping and coming back to the present moment. And yes, get upset by all means, of course. Heart is broken. It feels like a tragedy. And just accept that the tragedy has happened and that your mind knows what to do. You are actually in a lot more control than you think. And so just to let the grief come out and process, let the psyche readjust. The psyche is doing a readjustment at the moment. So it's just allowing and having faith that there's deep wisdom in there that knows exactly what it's doing. And it doesn't matter how hard it is, it's just committing to getting up, and if you have to drag yourself, limp, crawl, stagger, just getting up and getting on and letting go. Because there's people coming down the path after you that need you in the world. That your love matters. And if you can get through it, which you will, and you've done things before that you've got through, and you're going to get through this, it's a matter of knowing that, yes, you matter, your love matters. There's no point in wrapping up love in a box and putting it away until either your ex comes back or somebody new comes back, which is what a lot of people do. They can't feel any love unless there's someone else there to let it unleash. And this is another point which might be helpful to know or to consider, is that you can't get love. It doesn't come from out there and seep into our pores and get into our head and from out there. It works the other way around. We have love and we're waiting for this love object to come along so that to give us an excuse to bring it out. And until then it's locked away. And what a waste, because it's ever present. And we need to possibly find new ways of making it flow rather than waiting for this unpredictable guy or girl to come along and let us feel it. Because it's our love. We own it. So it's beginning to get away from, especially if you've got an anxious attachment style where you need somebody in your life. It's like somebody who needs to have a partner, boyfriend, or someone there that they focus on as a love connection. Then there's no love. You're just in panic all the time if you haven't got someone. Depression and anxiety are ever present. So It's about realising that you're always in control, you always have the love, and just letting it flow out in different ways so that you're not reliant on this other person, and when they walk away, they unplug your love and walk away with it. I mean, it's far too vulnerable, makes us too vulnerable to being left without any feelings of love. So they're just a few ideas that you can start to mull over, hopefully, to ease some of the heartbreak, and just recognising that we're all in this together and everybody goes through it. It does pass, everything passes, the good times pass, the hard times pass. And sometimes as well, after the fact, if we don't get our ex back, we look back and look at them and say, what was I so upset about? Because it's not them. It's just that we're using them as an excuse to bring out love and to feel secure and safe. And we can see all the trouble that does cause. So that's it from me today. And if you do want help to overcome your heartbreak more quickly and with some support, then you can contact me, linda@daresparkle.com. And I've also got a program. If you feel that your relationship is worth saving, then I have a program called the X-Files, How to Get Your Ex Back. And that's over on my website, www.daresparkle.com. And that's currently on a great offer. It's a launch price, and it comes with a full manual of the exact steps of what to do and what not to do in order to rekindle your love with your ex. And it also includes, at this moment, some coaching with me and a intuitive reading with my colleague Sheena McLean, who will be able to guide you with more universal input, and you have that nice blend then of both of us working with you through the process to try and help bring back your love. And in the link below as well, I've also got a free guide, the steps to what to do, what not to do when you break up with your ex if you want to get them back. And so you can check the links out below, and that's a nice gift that I've put together for you, and hopefully you'll find it useful. So I've been Linda Bebbington for daresparkle.com, and I'll see you soon, and look after your heart and take care. Bye for now.